Hello, I'm attorney Tammy Saltzman, and you are watching Divorce Connection Network. I am here today with a very good friend, Kim Sherman. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, Tammy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Kim and I know each other several years. We met through networking events. I was a speaker at one of his motivational events and networking events, and we have been working together in the collaborative world of family law, which you've heard us talk about. Today, we're going to discuss the complete opposite of the collaborative process, and we're going to talk about a nasty divorce, okay? Kim has been practicing in South Florida in the Fort Lauderdale area for over 40 years, and he has experience with nasty divorces, which is why we both ended up in collaborative, right?
That's true.
Collaborative is much better way to go, but when you have a nasty divorce, what can you do to diffuse the nastiness? So let's start by identifying when we have a nasty divorce, what does it look like, okay? We always know that we have anger, okay? Anger is what fuels the nasty divorce. But what are some other milestones that people should look for to determine whether their divorce is in the nasty area?
Well, you have several things, Tammy. Often there's family interference. The in-laws get involved. They try to control the situation. You have the ever-present money disaster when people are cruising along with good incomes and then one loses their job. Then there's not enough money to do those things that they want to do. Of course, there's the situations of violence and domestic abuse, distrust when there's another party involved or another demanding job or interest. You have people that are disabled physically, but maybe because of alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, all of those things. And a terrible one is when there's conflict over the children, how they're going to be brought up in terms of their religion, what they're allowed to do. These are often points that create disputes and violent disputes and lead often to nastiness in a divorce.
Good. So, there's a difference between being angry and sad and disappointed and scared and nastiness. I know that nastiness, when the phone rings and you freeze, that and you feel threatened, that could be nasty. Hiding money, having a spouse that's having an affair, these are things that fuel a nasty divorce. So in your 40 years of experience, what do you think couples can do to diffuse some of the nastiness that they may be experiencing?
You make me feel very old. First, I want to say that I have been brought up and I practice that a lawyer should encourage people to stay married or to save their marriage. And I think that the first thing a competent lawyer should do is to discuss with his client the options that are available before they go forward with their divorce. They should look for a trusted member of the family that both spouses can rely on and who might be able to intercede and advise. Perhaps there's a clergy that the parties could go to assist in reconciliation. And of course, there's professional help of a mental health counselor or psychologist, a practitioner to help solve the issues creating the conflicts. But once a lawyer is convinced that there is not an ability to save the marriage, Tammy, some things they can do to avoid the nastiness is get an experienced and competent lawyer for a business-like analysis of where the marriage is at if it were to go to court. What would the court do? What would the range of outcomes be? That's important to know. Next is get an experienced and competent mental health counselor to help cope with the emotional issues. And as we know, divorces are not just economic. They have many emotional sides, and if you get a family counselor who's experienced and trained, why, that makes things go much easier. Get as much financial information as possible on income, on assets, on debts, on spending habits. Those are the things that the professional is going to need. And if you have that information, then there's less mystery and it can proceed in a more business-like fashion. Fourth is make every effort you can to separate the emotional issues from the practical. Try and focus on how to get the best outcome from a bad situation. And finally, try to find a lawyer who will try to work with your spouse's lawyer promptly, peacefully, and to obtain a reasonable outcome for each issue. Some of those issues are separation, temporary support and expense payments, parenting issues, and the preservation and use of assets. And if you can find a collaboratively trained lawyer, that's very good, because those are lawyers who are trained to try and diffuse disputes and to find resolutions that will work for all of the parties. Long after the lawyers and judges are gone from a divorce, if there's children, the spouses or former spouses will still have to deal with each other, and you want to start in that fashion.
So just to clarify one point, the collaborative process is a process that all the parties agree they're not going to use any litigation, they're not going to use the court system. That doesn't mean that someone who is not collaboratively trained won't work in a collaborative way. So there is a new area called collaborative divorce, and there are specifically trained attorneys in this particular area, and they all work together to make sure you don't go to court and you're not using the judge to make the decisions for you. And there are also a lot of very good lawyers in South Florida who are not collaboratively trained, but they work in the same way to try to resolve your issues amicably as possible. And I'm glad that there are lawyers out there, because we all know that the nastiness is just makes the whole experience worse than it needs to be, and there is no revenge. You know, when you go through the court system, there's no, if you're looking for justice and some type of, you know, revenge, you're not going to get that.
Well, I want your viewers to be aware of these things, that creating and encouraging disputes works to benefit the greedy lawyer and really is a disservice to you. Like you said, Tammy, in the family law court, there is no satisfaction to be had. There is no lesson to be, quote, taught to your spouse. And experience tells us that people don't change. You cannot undo what's already happened. So you make the best of it, and that's what will help diffuse potential nasty divorce.
Yeah, I know that I've had quite a few cases in my practice where I've been scared because there's so much anger, like say in a mediation where the fires are fueled and you see someone's rage and you fear that things could get out of control. How do you have any advice on how to diffuse that type of anger when it's right there in front of you?
Well, certainly you want to have the parties deal with each other respectfully. And if your lawyer can't control that situation, then the parties should be taken away from each other. And that's the easiest way to diffuse the situation.
I agree.
Just part the company. But that is, you know, that just works to the advantage of the lawyers who want to foment discord. And what your viewers are looking for are ways to avoid getting sucked into more disputes.
Right.
Just don't go there. That's the thing. Don't go there. In fact, do we have time? I have just a couple of nastinesses you might want to know. I had one divorce, Tammy, where the judge ordered the left side of the refrigerator to the husband and the right side of the refrigerator to the wife, and directed them not to touch any food that was on the side of the refrigerator. Another case, a husband.
That's funny.
It was really serious at the time. Should have seen the judge instruct these folks. One other case, just the range of nastiness is tremendous. A husband moved out of the house voluntarily, and when he wanted to go and get his mail, he'd crash his car through the garage door and go get his mail. Of course, when the wife wasn't there, he'd leave a check on the kitchen counter for the amount of the cost of the door repair, and then he would head out the door. The police said, well, it was his garage still, and he paid for it. Of course, that wouldn't happen, I don't think, in today's court system, but it's typical. And I just would like to conclude, because I think our time is up, that I recommend to your viewers, get professional assistance from attorneys who are willing and able to diffuse the conflicts, because it costs so much less in money, in time, and in aggravation.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Please check our website at Divorce Connection Network. You'll find Kim there, his contact information, and we look forward to seeing you next time.